And hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Talk. Doug Miles and Don Henderson with you as we come to you on a Monday night. This is the 2nd of July, 2018, before the big holiday week coming up, July 4th holiday. A lot of baseball to talk about. We'll talk some golf as well over the weekend and a little hockey news. But I guess the big story, Don, if you watch, I was watching the Senior Open yesterday, and they flashed across the bottom. I guess LeBron James trumps all when it comes to news, huh?
Yeah, the Yankee game had the same thing. Well, what they did was they did a summation on ESPN2, and because the Yankee game against the Red Sox was on ESPN1, so
right.
All they could do was flash it on the bottom screen that he had signed it. First, he said that Smith from ESPN had made the announcement. Then they think they changed it a little bit later in the day as to who made the first announcement. So, but it didn't make any difference. He signed a contract. Everybody thought there were only a couple of teams he could have signed with. The Lakers were one of them, and he went ahead and did it. 4 years, $154,000. A great move for LeBron financially, although he doesn't need any more money. But we'll just see how the Lakers, turn the team around, because it's been a long time since they've been a viable contender in the NBA.
Yeah, I was listening to some sports talk yesterday, doing some errands around town, and they were saying on there, the show I listened to, he was going to make an announcement today. So he jumped the gun on himself, and they announced it yesterday. So,
well, Stephen A. jumped in, as I said. They were the first, at least on ESPN. They were the first ones to credit Stephen A. for having the story.
Of course.
And then a little bit later, maybe half hour later or so, they said somebody else was announcing that LeBron had signed with the Los Angeles Lakers. So I don't know which one had the story first. It really doesn't make any difference. Everybody keeps talking about what got the story first. But, I mean, how many people really care what LeBron does? I mean, unless you're an NBA fan, unless you're an LA Laker fan, or you're in Cleveland, I mean, to me, to get all the ink about LeBron signing doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. I just don't. He signed, so what?
I've never seen until the last maybe 8-10 years, really, I guess the LeBron era. Every sports show you watch, you figure, it's baseball season, they're going to leave with some baseball stories. Nope, it's always NBA, off-season NBA now. It's either a LeBron story or who's going to go where. That's all it is. And who reports it first?
Yeah, I mean, I think the stories of any of these superstars, whether was I mean, there's what sport you talk about, but I mean, to me, it only makes a difference to the city that they're leaving or the city that they're going to. It doesn't have any effect other than he's going to bring fans in now that he's a Los Angeles Laker, and if he's playing in the Timberwolves or something, obviously he's going to bring fans in to see the games. But to me, I just don't understand what the hype is. And, we talked earlier today, the Islanders are in the same situation.
Right.
And, it's great for Toronto. It's poor for the Islanders. But who cares? I mean, when the season starts, the players that are playing with the Islanders, the players that are playing with the Rangers, the players that are playing, in Las Vegas, that's it. The other teams, you look at, if you want to watch it, fine. Other than that, I don't understand what the big hype is about this.
Yeah, we'll get to the Tavares signing in a couple of minutes, but just to kind of wrap up on the Lakers thing, you look back now, Don, the Lakers, I think somebody posted something or saw it on a crawl that the Lakers now have had 6 of the all-time scoring leaders in the NBA in their history on their team. You go back to Elgin Baylor, and then, of course, Wilt Chamberlain. Jerry West was already there, but Wilt was in a trade. And then Kareem, of course, came over from the Milwaukee Bucks. And then who else after that? Kobe. Kobe was already there. And now LeBron. So that's 5 or 6 of the all-time great scorers. 4 or 5 of them come over in trades.
Yeah, it's a situation where I remember that when Kareem was in Milwaukee, and it was almost a sure thing that he was going to play out his option or be traded, either one, to go to Los Angeles, and it was almost fait accompli. And of course, he turned the Lakers again back into a championship form team, and that was great. I mean, it is great. It was unfortunate for Milwaukee because they lost a chance to really be a dominant team for a period of time. And the same thing's going to be with LeBron. The only difference is LeBron is 32 years old, and it's a 4-year contract.
Right.
So he's going to be playing until he's 36 for this $154 million. And it's really going to be interesting to see how, in fact, if he doesn't have a lot of support around him, whether he's going to take them to a championship unless they get some other players.
And it's almost like he's 36 because you remember he came right out of high school, so he had that 4 extra years in NBA mileage on him. You never wish anything bad health-wise, but sooner or later, the knees are going to give out on you a little bit.
Well, not only that, look what happened to him in the championship series. I mean, they never announced it. It was his own fault.
Oh, the wrist.
He
the hand
drove
thing,
his fist into the blackboard because of frustration.
Right.
But, I mean, those are the kinds of things that can happen. I certainly think he's probably learned his lesson from that. But, you go down with an injury, especially in the NBA, well, he twisted his knee. I mean, look at Kobe over the last couple of years that Kobe played. He made a gracious debut from the NBA because they passed him the ball about 108 times and let him take a shot in his last game. But, I mean, other than that, the last couple of years, Kobe was just a player. He wasn't a superstar.
One thing's for sure now, every Laker game is going to be on either TNT or ESPN next 4 years. You can guarantee
it'll
that.
Be like the Yankees right now. The Yankees and Red Sox seem to be on a regular basis, whether they're on Fox, whether they're on, well, of course, we always get them here with yes, but whether they're on Fox or whether they're on ESPN or whether they're on, the Sunday night game or whatever it may be. And unfortunately, they had 3 games over the weekend that were really billboarded and felt, boy, this is a great rivalry and so forth. The games were terrible. So, and I got to be very honest. I just, I was at one time a very, very big NBA fan. I'm just not a big NBA fan anymore. Maybe I'll come back to it. We'll see what happens during the season this year. The Sixers are back in it, so that makes it interesting. The Knicks still aren't back in it, so that doesn't make it interesting. And the Brooklyn, they've never been in it. So, to me, Philadelphia's finally made a strong move, both baseball-wise and basketball-wise. So they're going to become much more interesting to watch or listen to. But other than that, I mean, I don't think I watched 5 NBA games all season before the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just have not been a fan in the last really 10 years. I mean, obviously, just to follow it, we do shows like this, but as far as watching it, and then you go back now, on YouTube, they have some of the classic games you can watch from time to time. You watch some of those games, you realize how bad the game is today, how poorly it's played. When you watch some of those old games from the 70s, even early 80s, but I would say 70s, I mean, it was played great, entertaining, and now you watch it, it's a slogfest, one-on-one.
Well, not only that, they've changed the rules to such a degree. I mean, it's amazing to me what they've done. It's all vertical jumps, slam dunks.
That's it.
Very, very few of the players can actually pay off a screen. Very few can post up. The basic intricacies of the game, a lot of them can't even do. And, so, again, to me, if you like to see, and I go back, and I know I've told you the story a million and one times, and when Bill Walton played basically his final game out in Portland because it was halftime, and they had knocked off the 76ers. I had broadcast the games the year before in the championship, and they won the 6 games. They won the 6th game in Philadelphia. So the first time we were in Portland, obviously it was a sellout, and everybody's really anticipating a great game. Well, Portland was up by, I'm going to say, I don't remember the exact score, but I'll say 18 to 20 points. And Julius Erving, doctor comes down, slam dunks with about, maybe 10 seconds to go in the half. And the place goes wild. I'm saying, what are we doing here? This game, it's a terrible game. Bill Walton got hurt just before the half and never really played, hurt his foot again, never really played again. It was obviously very interesting to us because Dr. Jack Ramsey was from Philadelphia, former general manager of the 76ers and head coach of Portland. And all those aspects were very important to Philadelphia, certainly to we, the broadcasters, as well as the fans. But, slam dunk, I mean, that's and you watch the championship this year, and boy, oh boy, they just kill you with slam dunks.
Yeah, I invite people out there. Just go on YouTube. There's plenty of those old classic games on the full game broadcast, and you watch the flow of a game back then, and it really moved. And that was before the 3-point shot too. It just was much more entertaining. But yeah, it is brutal now. But fans today don't care. Kids today, they think this is the way it should be played, and they watch it anyway. I guess.
Well, yeah, the younger, the younger generation seems to like it, and well, I guess the older ones too, because the prices they charge now for tickets to go to an NBA game. I mean, they're just out of sight. But everything's out of sight. So what are you going to do?
Well, let's talk about that Yankee Bo Sox series. You mentioned it, and every game was a blowout. The Yankees blow them out Friday, and then Boston saw a little bit of that Saturday. That was over in the first inning against Sonny Gray, and then last night over early against David Price. Yankees coming back. Not a great series as far as the way it was played. If you're a Yankee fan, it was good. I enjoyed it, but yeah, that was not great baseball.
No, 9-1 the first night. Friday night was no contest. 11-0 Saturday night, no contest. No interest, and then of course Sunday night's game was just between the home run barrage, was just all Yankees, and so really the three games, although a lot of anticipation, just weren't very interesting games to watch.
Yeah, Sonny Gray looked awful Saturday. I watched that first inning. I mean, he couldn't get out of that bear. I mean, he pitched a few innings, but that first inning, I think he threw 30 pitches before the inning was over, maybe more. After by that grand slam.
You got the first two outs in the first inning, and then it was boom, 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 and the grand slam home run. And in the New York Post today, there's a lengthy story with Aaron Boone about the fact that he's not gonna take him out of the rotation. He's going to keep him in there. And he didn't say how long. But he is expected to pitch again, I think, on Friday night in Toronto, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he better put on a lot better performance than he's put on a regular basis so far for the Yankees, both the end of last year and the beginning of this year. He just never really got his feet on the ground in New York, and so we'll see what happens. But according to Boone, he's still going to be in the rotation, even though they're off on Thursday. Excuse me, which means he can move the pitching rotation around a little bit and skip Gray. But as of this morning, he said he was not going to do that. He was going to pitch in Toronto on Friday.
Yeah, he doesn't pitch well at home, pitches much better on the road. That's his record so far, right? Sonny Gray?
Right.
He has not pitched well at Yankee Stadium, and that was proven again Saturday. That was awful. But David Price, too, I mean, to go the other side, he pitched terrible again for the Red Sox, but they're stuck with his contract of $20-some-odd million a year. I've never been impressed with him. He's had a couple of good seasons, but he's always never been a clutch pitcher, even going back to the Rays days. I mean, he's had a couple of good big games, but not very many.
They thought that he might skip pitching in last night's game because his record against the Yankees is not very good.
No.
And they thought that maybe, everybody anticipated him being back, being healthy, and being ready to go. But Thursday before the Sunday game, they were talking about, well, then maybe there's going to be a change in the rotation. His record against the Yankees has not been good. In fact, it's very poor. And that they may pull him and just say, well, he's not really ready to go yet. We'll start him in the next series. But they didn't do that. And, of course, the end result was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know what his career statistics are. They're probably better than we think, but doesn't it seem to you, Don? I mean, I know he won the Cy Young one year. I think he did. And he had one good game in the World Series when the Rays were in it. But every other big game he's been in, and it seems like he just doesn't come through in the clutch a lot for a big game pitcher. To me, it doesn't seem that way.
He had a chance. He's been with teams, except for his time with the Rays. And even then, the Rays were in contention, went to the World Series. And his first real dominant performance was coming out of the bullpen, if you remember.
Right.
In big situations in that World Series, and he pitched extremely well. But after that, he was always a little bit shoddy, and then he played out his option, went to Detroit, and didn't do anything in Detroit. I mean, he just then he got hurt, and then Boston picked it up and decided that he played out his option again, and so Boston decided to give him this big contract, and now he's struggling all over again. So I'll tell you, if I'm a general manager in this day and age, pitchers aren't going to see big contracts. like 120, 130 million dollars. That's not going to happen if I'm a general manager.
Well, Baltimore's going through that with their player, right? Chris, was it Jones, right?
Right.
I'm batting. I don't know what he's batting now. He was under the 200 mark for a long time, and they're stuck with a long deal on him.
Well, they've got Davis with I think
Davis,
he signed
Chris Davis. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he signed like a 4-year contract, and it's unbelievable. I mean, you're right. He's sitting under 200, not 300, under 200.
200, yeah.
And of course, the big news down there, obviously, is Machado, and what's going to happen with him. There was a lot of speculation over the weekend that two leading candidates were L.A. and Philadelphia. Philadelphia has a lot of room to exercise that kind of a salary, and they're also now becoming a little bit more realistic. They were talking, well, Harper and Machado are going to break all records. They're going to get $400 million. Well, I think that's a little bit of a pipe dream after seeing what's happened the last few years. I don't think you're going to see anything like that, but they'll get big, solid contracts. I don't mean they're going to be minimized, and especially, Machado, because he had a terrific year.
Yeah, Baltimore had a terrible season, but he's one of the only bright spots on the Orioles.
Yeah, and he's doing it by, he's really doing it by himself,
yeah,
because the rest of the team hasn't done anything. And so, and boy, oh boy, Buck, his contract is up. Duchette's contract is up. So that'll have something to do with what they do in Baltimore. Will they rehire them and let them reorganize the team, or will they, exercise the option and fire Buck? And I don't know. It's really up in the air as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, you and I saw probably at least a dozen games in spring training like we do every year, and there's no way I thought they would be this bad. I didn't think they were going to, win the division, obviously. They were probably playing for third, maybe a wild card if they really got hot, but I didn't think that. But I didn't think they'd be this bad.
No, I could not agree with you more. We talked about it many times, and we did many shows around the preseason, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, it was never a doubt in my mind that they were going to be a contending team. The 8 people they put on the field, were very solid players.
Yeah, yeah.
But between the injuries and the pitching staff, I mean, they can't get anybody out. It's a shame, because Buck is he's an unusual person, but he's a very, very good manager. And, he'll get another job if, in fact, in Baltimore they decide to have a clean sweep. I'm sure that, he's going to get another job pretty quickly, almost immediately in the major leagues. But, you look at him right now, just to run down, Beckham said, right now Beckham is playing third base. He's hitting 206. Jones is hitting 287, which is respectable. Machado's hitting 310. Trumbo is hitting 261. Davis is hitting 155.
155 now, wow.
155, yeah. Mancini is 133. I mean, you just can't have that kind of performance and no pitching. I mean, and no bullpen, and you can't win. I mean, it's just impossible.
I don't know if we'll be able to get him on during the season. I kind of doubt it, but your friend Lee Thomas, who we talked to in spring training, be interesting to get his thoughts, but he's the assistant GM, but he probably doesn't want to talk much about what's going on to the media,
well,
right?
I'll try to give him a call when they have a day
Maybe
off.
off the record you can talk to him and see what he says.
I know they're going to want to talk during the, during the season, but I know during the season. I mean, and nights that they're playing, but if I can get them on a night that they're not playing, we'll record something or do something with him and see what he has to say about this. Yeah. Because he was, as you know, he was very optimistic too.
That's what I mean. And it wasn't just blowing smoke. I mean, he was telling us the truth, I think.
Oh, absolutely. He talked about the pitching staff. We're short pitching. We're going to have to find, but there just wasn't any pitching really to be found. And then on top of that, the players started to get hurt, and players they expected to play well didn't play well, and it's been a long, long season for Buck. I mean, and the Oriole fans, I'll tell you, it's very, very, very difficult. And of course, their transition coming down to Sarasota next year should be really fun, because I think you're going to have a lot of new people, a lot of new faces, if they maintain the same front office administration as they have now.
Right. One other thing next year now, there's still a little discrepancy whether they're going to play any games, but the Braves are supposed to start next year down here. Whether they get that complex finish or not, it may be another season, but they're supposed to have their spring training next year down in Northport area. So we'll see what happens.
I think the only thing they've actually announced, to be honest with you, Doug, is they said that the last game of the exhibition season.
Right, one game they're hoping to get in.
Yeah, it would be the last game of the exhibition season would be held in a new ballpark.
Yeah.
Now, if it's ready earlier and they can get more, I'm sure they'll try to, transfer them from up in Orlando and get as many games in as they can. But the only thing they're actually promising the people in Northport is that they'll have the last game of the exhibition season there in the new ballpark.
Now, when they announced the Braves were coming, Braves were a lousy team, but this year they're playing well, so it looks better and better for our area now with the Braves.
Well, I'll tell you, I think they've got a great shot. The two biggest surprises have to be Philadelphia and Atlanta. I mean, everybody knew they had good young players, and I think, but they didn't expect them to be contenders this year. They thought it would be at least another year away. But the way Washington's playing right now, the Phillies just beat them. I saw them over the weekend. They just beat them 3 out of 4.
Right.
And Washington, I don't know, I don't have it in front of me now, but I think they're like 3 or 4 games in back of both Atlanta and Philadelphia. So, who knows? I mean, it's going to be a interesting down to the wire in the National League East.
Yep, 4 teams next year, or eventually, will be within about an hour in spring training of us here
Correct.
in our area.
Correct.
So it'll be interesting.
And I'll tell you, before we leave baseball, we got to give a few kudos. We did it, as you know, last Wednesday night on our show and talked about, what Cash has done.
Right.
With, the Tampa Bay team. I mean, nobody expected them to do anything. And then to have the pitchers all go down, and the difficulties they had playing and lose 8 of the first 9 games, and how he has kept them in contention and rotated that bullpen to be starting pitchers for 2 innings and 3 innings, it's just a miracle. And Sherman did an article in the Post yesterday.
I saw that.
He said, he won't get the Manager of the Year award, obviously, but because there are too many other managers that are, having great runs as well. But he deserves to be certainly, in top consideration to be the Manager of the Year in the American League.
Well, 1 game over 500 with that win yesterday.
Yeah.
Beat Houston again.
Exactly.
And nobody's expected that, so give them credit, even though nobody goes although they had pretty decent crowds. I think a lot of them are Houston fans over the weekend, but fans are starting to see a winning team.
Well, it was interesting because the Mets going into the season had high expectations with the Big Four, and I see the Black Knight won again for Cincinnati yesterday. He pitched 5 in the 3rd and did get the win.
Oh, he did? I didn't see what happened. Okay.
I think he's 4-5 now, if I'm not mistaken.
Because he had lost a couple recently, so he had a rough go again. But
but he only pitched 5 in the 3rd, but he did win. Yeah. But, I mean, when the season started, everybody thought, well, okay, with that pitching staff, the Mets are definitely going to be in the hunt. Everybody thought that the Rays were going to be, just a dismal failure. Yeah. And yet it's been just the other way around. As you mentioned, the Rays are now 1 game over 500. Nobody would have believed it. And the New York Mets, nobody can find them.
And we do want to wish, sad news about Sandy Alderson. Apparently his cancer came back, so he had to step away for a while. I don't know if he's resigned altogether to take care of that. I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I think he said he had I'm not sure if it was leukemia or what it was, but unfortunately it came back, so we wish him well.
And Minaya is one of the trio that's taking over as sort of
the former GM at one point.
Former GM, and always had been up in Montreal and
went to San Diego for a while after that, I think. Didn't he go to San Diego?
Very good baseball guy. And before we leave the baseball front, since we're recording this now, and we got to wish our great broadcaster and friend in New York his 80th birthday. They posted a major story on him yesterday, and well deserved. 80 years
John
old.
Sterling, you're talking about. I was just going to bring that up.
John Sterling.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, I always thought that was his real name. I never knew it was his name until I read the article.
Yeah, he came up with that himself. He said it made his name look more sparkling or something, he said in the article.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he did. He was. I didn't know that much about him. I knew all the sports teams he worked for, starting with the Washington Bullets and so forth. and all the sports talk shows that he had done, and of course the last 20 years with the Yankees. But I never realized he was that big a movie fan and that big a
Sinatra fan.
musical enthusiast. I mean, all his Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra and all the leading musicians and songs and artists and movie stars and what who they work for and how his whole life has been centered around entertainment in that regard. But anyway, for John, a happy birthday, 80 years of age, and keep going.
Yeah, the first time I knew of him was in New York back in, I guess, early 70s. He did a talk show on WMCA. I don't know if you were there, Don, at the time. And then he was with the Islanders and the Nets. But
right,
being 80 years old, he must have worked somewhere before that for about 10 or 15 years. But I don't know where he was before New York.
He also did that first national sports talk show before ESPN became the entertainment capital of the world. They tried that earlier on because Ira Melman that I worked with, and of course Sterling, they worked on. I'm not sure it was up in Connecticut, but I think it was somewhere up that way.
I didn't know that. Right.
Yeah, they had a national sports talk show. It just didn't go. And then 3 or 4 years later is when they started to kick in and come up with ESPN Radio and ESPN TV, and then of course it was a giant success. But no, he worked originally up there. I can't think of some of the other broadcasters that I knew that worked up there. I knew Lara and I knew I knew John, but I can't think of the other guys that did it. But it was a 24-hour. They started.
I didn't know that.
24-hour all sports.
Yeah. But he must have worked somewhere in the 60s, because you figure if he was 80, he graduated college, whatever, around 1960 or so. But I don't know where he worked during that 10 years. He worked in Washington?
Oh, yeah, the Washington, not the Baltimore Bullets, not the Washington.
I didn't know that.
All
right.
He was prior to Washington. Washington became,
they were the Baltimore Bullets for a long time, right?
Yeah. When Gus was there and it was Baltimore, I think that's the first major league franchise that he did.
All right.
And then, as you said, he did the Islanders. He's done a lot.
And then he went to Atlanta for many years, and then came back to.
He did the Hawks down there. And he did baseball down there
the Braves,
as well.
Right? Yeah.
And they worked. So he's had a great career, and
God bless him. I mean, he's a terrible play-by-play guy, but God bless him. People love him, and good for him.
Well, as
just not my style. Okay, maybe I'm the only one that thinks that, but it just.
Well, as they said that they say that's part of his lore. The fact that a lot of people hate him and a lot of people love him.
Yeah, I don't hate him. I just don't like his. No,
I mean
not a play-by-play style. I like.
No, I don't mean personally hate him. I don't like his play-by-play style. And then they did the 4 major calls that he considers to be the best, home run calls that he ever had.
Yeah, I hate that.
But I mean that all goes back to his entertainment idea.
I understand it, and that's the way it is now. But it seems like he worked so hard. You have to get the call in rather than make it, accurate. But that he's not going to change now, so I'm not going to harp on it.
Well, they said I didn't realize it was all part of this theatrical background that he had. This is why one of the things that he came up with over the years is different little. It was a very interesting article.
Great article. Andrew Marchand, who kind of Phil Mushnick's, he does the same kind of thing Phil Mushnick does, a lot of media stuff.
I think he's heir apparent.
Yeah, he's going to be the next. When Phil hangs it up, he'll take that over.
Yeah, I think Phil is, I don't know how old Phil is, to be honest with you, but
I thought he said he was 65 recently in an article. He said himself, so he's ready to hang it up, I'm sure, soon.
I don't know how much longer Phil's going to keep doing this, but...
we have to have him on. We haven't had him on in a few years.
He had a couple of good articles this weekend as well.
Very good.
And they did a very good job this weekend. There were a lot of good stories in the paper this weekend, and it's always great to supplement, all the sports conversation on the radio. There a little bit more fact in the newspapers than there is on the radio.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, we'll wrap up. Go ahead. I thought you were going to finish up on that, but I say, let's wrap up with the Tavares thing. We mentioned it earlier. thought maybe that the Islanders would be able to get him because they got, of course, Barry Trotz as their new coach, and Lou Lamoriello might make the big pitch. But Tavares said no, he's going to Toronto and gets a 7-year deal. I think it was for, what, $140 million, $120 million, whatever it was, but it's a lot.
Somewhere in that range. I can't remember the exact numbers, to be honest with you, but it was in that range. And I'll tell you, the Post today, again, I look at the paper every day as you do, and Brooks gave he did not blame Lamoriello. He blamed the ownership, that the ownership should have been much more effective in the last year. As you know, which wasn't in the paper today, but you and I happen to be living in that area and see the Lightning play all the time. All during the second half of last year, they thought the superstar for the Lightning, who lived in Toronto, was going to jump ship.
Right.
And he was going to go up there. Well, in this particular case, everybody thought Tavares was not going to jump ship, that he was going to stay with the Islanders, especially since Lamoriello had just come in. But instead, he jumps ship and goes to his hometown. So he goes to Toronto. So it's a never-ending circus.
Yeah, a little irony there. Lou Lamoriello was with Toronto and leaves there to build the Islanders, and their best player, or one of their best players, goes to Toronto. So, but Lou's, I'm sure, got some things up his sleeve. He's not going to let this stop him. But disappointing if you're an Islander fan. You know,
I don't know that he's going to be able to do it in 1 year. But
not now. If he had stayed, maybe he could do it. Now it's going to be a 2 or 3 year process. I think.
Yeah, I would say it's going to be at least a 2 year process, and but he'll have them in contention. He always starts in the back. He starts with a goaltender and works his way out.
Right.
And he always wants a good defensive team. He always wants, a couple of guys that are scorers, but he wants to see the defenseman play well. He wants to see the goaltender play well, and then he works out from there.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that, but that'll wrap it up for tonight's edition. Again, we want to wish everybody have a great 4th of July, wherever you may be, and also send our good wishes out again to our buddy Tommy Gilbert, who does the Wednesday show, and we're thinking of Tommy, so hopefully he'll get back on with you, not this week, I guess you guys are off, but next week. Yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday, not this Wednesday night because it's 4th of July, but also want to wish everybody listening out there drive safely, be as cautious as you possibly can, and just make sure that you're around the day after the 4th and well beyond. I'm just staying in. You know how it is down here on 4th of July traffic, Don, so I'm not going anywhere. with the boat races and the 4th and the fireworks, just stay in your house here in Sarasota. Don't drive anywhere. All right, take care. Okay, Don. 4th of July holiday, everyone, and we'll get together next Monday night. We'll talk to you next week, everybody. Thanks for listening.